July 30th, 1971. A routine domestic flight turned into one of the worst air disasters in Japanese history. All Nippon Airways, or ANA Flight 58, a Boeing 727-281, registered as JA8329, was en route from Chitose Airport in Hokkaido to Tokyo's Haneda Airport when it was involved in a catastrophic mid-air collision with the Japan Air Self-Defense Force, or JASDF, F-86F Sabre fighter jet. The crash resulted in the deaths of all 162 people aboard the commercial airliner. ANA Flight 58 was operated by a Boeing 727-281, a variant of the widely used Boeing 727, which was one of the most popular and reliable passenger jets of the era. The three-engine narrow-body jet was designed for short to medium-haul flights, making it ideal for domestic routes in Japan. The aircraft, JA8329, had been in service for ANA for some time and had no known mechanical issues before the accident. The flight was piloted by a highly experienced crew: Captain Masaharu Kono, aged 41, First Officer Tsunetaka Shibata, aged 35, Flight Engineer Mitsuo Iwata, aged 41. All three flight crew members had accumulated thousands of flight hours and were considered well-trained professionals. Meanwhile, the Japan Air Self-Defense Force, the JASDF F-86F Sabre, a single-seat transonic jet fighter, was being operated by Flight Lieutenant Yoshimi Ichikawa, a young and relatively inexperienced pilot undergoing training. His instructor, Captain Takanori Koga, was flying another F-86F nearby, overseeing the exercise. At approximately 1:30 p.m. Japan Standard Time (JST), ANA Flight 58 departed Chitose Airport on its scheduled route to Haneda Airport, carrying 155 passengers and 7 crew members. The weather was clear, and the aircraft was cruising at an assigned altitude of 28,000 feet. Meanwhile, the two JASDF F-86F Sabres were conducting a training exercise in the same airspace. Captain Koga and Flight Lieutenant Ichikawa were engaged in formation flight and interception drills, practicing various maneuvers. Koga was leading the exercise, while Ichikawa was following as part of his training. During the exercise, Ichikawa lost sight of Koga's aircraft for a moment. In an attempt to relocate his instructor visually, he maneuvered his jet without properly checking for other air traffic. This was a critical mistake. At approximately 2:06 p.m. JST, Ichikawa's F-86F Sabre collided with the tail section of the Boeing 727. The nose of the fighter jet struck the fuselage, severing the vertical stabilizer and damaging the horizontal stabilizer. The impact immediately caused catastrophic structural failure. The Boeing 727 immediately went into an uncontrollable dive. Without its vertical stabilizer, the aircraft lost stability, and the pilots were unable to regain control. Passengers and crew inside the craft would have experienced violent turbulence and rapid decompression. The plane began spiraling downward, and within moments, it was plummeting toward the ground at an extreme speed. At 2:08 p.m. JST, less than 2 minutes after the collision, Flight 58 crashed into a rural area near Shizukuishi, Iwate Prefecture. The impact was so severe that all 162 people on board were killed instantly. Wreckage was scattered over a wide area, and fires broke out due to the explosion upon impact. Flight Lieutenant Ichikawa, the pilot of the F-86F Sabre, managed to eject from his aircraft before it also crashed in a separate location. He parachuted to safety and survived with only minor injuries. Captain Koga, who had witnessed the entire event from his own aircraft, immediately reported the disaster to Air Traffic Control and JASDF Command. The Japanese authorities, including the Aircraft Accident Investigation Commission or AAIC and Japan's Ministry of Transport, launched an investigation into the collision. The key findings were as follows. Number 1. Pilot error. Flight Lieutenant Ichikawa had been performing unauthorized maneuvers while attempting to maintain visual contact with his instructor. Number 2. Lack of situational awareness. Ichikawa failed to check for other air traffic before executing his maneuver, leading to the collision. Number 3. Poor airspace coordination. There was insufficient communication between military and civilian air traffic controllers, which allowed a high-speed fighter jet to operate in proximity to a commercial airliner. Number 4. Inadequate training procedures. The investigation also pointed out that JASDF's pilot training protocols did not sufficiently emphasize situational awareness regarding civilian airspace. Ichikawa was found criminally negligent for his actions. In 1973, he was court-martialed and sentenced to prison for his role in causing the disaster. The Japanese government, as well as the Japan Air Self-Defense Force, faced significant public scrutiny for failing to prevent the tragedy. The tragedy of ANA Flight 58 remains one of the deadliest aviation accidents in Japanese history. The 162 lives lost included business travelers, families, and crew members who had no warning before their untimely deaths. For the families of the victims, the crash was devastating. Legal battles ensued, with many seeking compensation and justice for their loved ones. ANA, JASDF, and the Japanese government all faced lawsuits and public outrage. In the decades that followed, Japan's aviation safety standards significantly improved, and the lessons learned from Flight 58 helped prevent similar disasters. The case remains a sobering example of the dangers of mismanaged airspace and the critical need for strict air traffic control protocols. To this day, memorials stand in Shizukuishi, Iwate Prefecture, honoring those who lost their lives in the tragedy. Their deaths were not in vain, as the disaster ultimately led to safer skies for both military and civilian aviation in Japan.